Boys and girls, today what we're going to do is subtract negatives. So I'm going to go over a couple rules first. So when you subtract a negative, there technically is there isn't any subtraction in math. Technically, what you're doing is adding a negative. So what that means basically is this. So if you have, look, if I have 64 minus, let's say 10. So we all know 64 minus 10 is 54. But when we subtract, what we're really doing is this. We're taking 64, we change the minus to a plus, and whenever you change that minus to a plus, you change the sign of the next number. So 10 is a positive 10, so I make it a negative 10. And I just follow the rules of what we did yesterday. So I have a positive and negative, so you subtract them, you get 54, and I have a positive 64 and a negative 10, so 64. The absolute value is bigger than negative 10, so it has to be a positive 54. So I'd leave it at 54. Okay, so that's just regular subtraction. So let's talk about when we have to subtract with the negative, though. So if I have 10 minus a negative 3, now we need to figure out the answer. So the rule, again, is this. You change the minus to a plus, and you change the next sign. So if the sign is negative, we make it positive. So I just do this. So now I have 10 plus 3, it's 13. Okay, so let's try a different one. How about if I had negative 10 minus 3? How do I do that one? Okay, so we have a minus, so I change it to plus, that's the rule, and change the sign of the next number. So I change it to negative 3. So now I have negative 10 plus a negative 3. Since they're both negative, I just add it, so I get 13. And it's negative because they're both negative, so it's negative 13. All right, let's try a different one. How about if I have negative 10 minus a negative 3? So what I'm going to do is this. Again, I change it to plus. That's the first step of everything, is change it to the minus to a plus, but change the next number, the sign of it. So if it's negative, make it positive. Now I have negative 10 plus a 3. So I subtract them because that's our rules from addition. If they're different signs, subtract. I get 7. And I have a negative 10 and I have a positive 3. The absolute value is 3. The absolute value is 10. I have a negative here because 10 is bigger than 3, so I take the negative, so it's negative 7 is the answer. All right, so I'm going to do a couple with you, then you're going to do a couple on your own. All right, so the first one I have is 64. I'm going to write a little bit bigger, minus a negative 10. Okay, so what I do is change the sign. So I'm going to change it to plus. And now I need to change the sign of the negative 10. So I'm going to change it to a positive 10. So 64 plus 10 is 74 is my answer. The next one, I have negative 46 minus 47. So what I'm going to do is change the minus to a plus and change the sign of the next number. Change the sign of the next number. That's what you got to keep doing. Change the sign of the next number so it's now minus 47. So when you have minus 46 plus a minus 47, what you're going to do is add them. And that answer is 93. And we keep it as a negative because they're both negative. Okay, so let's move on to a couple more. Okay. All right, so for number 3 and number 4, I'll do them with you again, and then you guys are going to do some on your own. So you should have a piece of paper with you and a pencil. All right, so we have negative 23 minus 25. First step, make it plus. Next step, change the sign of the next number, so I'm going to make it a negative. So now I have negative 23 and negative 25, so I add them, I get 48, keep the negative. All right, next, this is simple subtraction, this is regular subtraction, but let's just look at it if you would do it like this. So if I have minus 98 minus 66, make it plus. Make the next number negative. So what do you do with these two numbers? We have to subtract them. So when you subtract them, you get 32. Take the sign of the bigger absolute value, which is 98. So that answer is going to be 32. Okay, let's move on. Let's see here. All right, so number 5 and number 6, you guys try, and then I'll show you how to do it. So pause it. Okay, so we have 21 minus a negative 78. Oops, forgot the 7. So change the to plus, change the sign of the next number, so I make it plus. So we have 21 plus 78, that's 99. Next one, negative 1 minus a negative 67. Change it to plus, change the next sign, and the sign of the next number is going to be a positive 67. So I have 67 and I have a negative 1, so I have to subtract them too, because those are the rules of the addition of negatives. So 67 minus 1 is 66, and I take the sign of the bigger absolute value, which is 67, so it's positive. So the answer is 66. Okay, next two. You guys try, and then we'll go over them. Okay, pause it. Okay, so I have 4 minus 20. So we're going to make it plus, change the minus to a plus, and change the sign of the next number to a negative 20. So 4 minus plus a negative 20, we have to subtract them because one's negative, one's positive. I get 16. Take the absolute value of the bigger number. The bigger number would be 20, so it would be negative 16. Next one, negative 57 minus 45. So we change it to plus, change it to negative 45. So since they're both negative, we just add it. So when we add it, we get 102. And it's going to be negative because they're both negative. Okay, a couple more. All right, pause it, and then you can skip number 10. Just do number 9. Okay, so 42 minus a negative 61. Again, change it to plus. Change the 61 to a plus, positive I mean. So now I have a positive and a positive. All I have to do is add it. So I get 103. All right, 10 we'll skip. 10's 54 if you wanted, but. All right, let's do the next two. So pause and then hit play. All right, so we have negative 9 minus a negative 66. So make it plus. Change this to a positive. So now I have 66 and a negative 9, so I subtract those two, and I get 57. And I take absolute value of 66 is bigger than 9, so I take the sign for 66, which is a positive. Negative 20 minus a negative 32. Change it to plus, and change the negative 32 to a positive 32. One's negative, one's positive, so I have to subtract, so I get 12. And the absolute value of 32 is bigger than the absolute value of 20, so I keep it as positive. All right, so one more thing, and then I want you to do the worksheet and do the best that you can. Here's a riddle. So see if you get this riddle, and then tomorrow I'll show you the answer, and I'll have another riddle tomorrow too. If you buy a rooster for the purpose of laying eggs, and you expect to get 3 eggs each day for breakfast, how many eggs will you have after 3 weeks? Okay, boys and girls, have a great day.